You know, the last week of January is always Catholic Schools Week. Yeah, this week it bleeds into the first week of February, but we are right smack in the middle of Catholic Schools Week, and we are big proponents of Catholic schools here on the program. Well, we wanted to let you know about a network of Catholic schools across the country that is doing some great things in the lives of students and families. And joining us now to tell us more is Elizabeth Goettl, who is the president and CEO of the Cristo Rey Network. Hi, Elizabeth. Good morning.
Good morning, Gus.
Welcome. Great to have you here. Thank you for being with us this morning. Well, Elizabeth, before we get into you telling us more about the Cristo Rey Network, tell us a little bit about your background. Have you been in education for a long time, and how you got involved with the Cristo Rey Network?
Sure. I have been in education my entire career. I've had the privilege of leading schools in the public sector, the charter school network, and in Catholic schools for about 15 years. I was doing my day job as assistant superintendent in a small, high-performing public school system in Arizona when the board chair invited me to apply for the president's role at the Cristo Rey School in Tucson. And as so often happens in our lives, I felt like the Holy Spirit tapped me on the shoulder, and I said yes, and it's been a wonderful experience, changing the lives of students through access to a quality education.
Now, how did, especially being involved in public and charter schools, how did that prepare you for what you're doing now?
Mm-hmm. Well, in the public school system, I had access to quality professional development, cutting-edge practices, the best practices we could employ in education, because we know what works in education. And so to be able to share those practices with school leaders and teachers to increase academic achievement for all students. That's what I got from that. And very similar in the charter school. The charter school world, of course, has not the faith base that we have, but many charter schools are trying to provide access to students in neighborhoods where the public school isn't doing the job.
Yeah. Elizabeth Goettl with the Cristo Rey Network with us this morning as we celebrate Catholic Schools Week here on Seize the Day on the Catholic Channel on SiriusXM 129. All right, tell us then about the genesis of the Cristo Rey Network.
Sure. The first Cristo Rey school opened 21 years ago in the Pilsen neighborhood in Chicago. The Jesuits wanted to do something to help this neighborhood, which was rife with high school dropouts, gangs, and violence. So they walked the streets of the neighborhood, talked to students and families, and asked them what they needed most to help their neighborhood. And the families responded that what they needed most was a good school. So the Jesuits decided to open a Catholic college preparatory high school, but exclusively for students of low income. So the question was, how would they pay for it? That was the genesis of the corporate work study model. Every Cristo Rey school includes this model whereby students attend classes for 4 longer school days a week, and 1 day a week every student works in an entry-level corporate job.
Okay, so that's how the whole thing got started. Then tell us about the progress, especially over the last number of years, because I know you guys have been growing like crazy.
We have, yes. So in the early days, the Gates Foundation made a decision that this was a great model and they wanted to help us replicate. So they were the people who helped us, along with B.J. Casson, get off the ground to start to replicate schools around the country. Since then, we've exploded to currently 32 schools, next year 35 schools, and we're on the pathway to serve 20,000 students in 50 schools.
So your growth, you've seen an awful lot of growth now, and we're talking, by the way, this morning about the Cristo Rey Network. Now, tell me what your relationship is with dioceses and diocesan schools.
Yes. So every Cristo Rey school is embedded within a diocese and partners closely with the diocese and the bishop of that diocese, who, of course, permits us to open a school. Most of our schools are run by religious sponsors. So the Christian Brothers, the Jesuits. I'm in Richmond right now where we'll be opening a new school, and the Bon Secours Ministries, sisters who have typically run hospitals, will be the religious sponsors of the school. So we partner, in some cases, the diocese is the religious sponsor. In most cases, it's a separate sponsor who supports the school.
Okay. Do you then have a relationship with the bishop of each diocese, with the Catholic school system within each diocese?
Absolutely. We always must and work to have a strong relationship with the bishop, and that's in place in every city where we operate. And then we also partner with the diocese in different ways, sometimes in professional development, so in a whole variety of ways, and it's different from city to city.
We're talking about the Cristo Rey Network during Catholic Schools Week here on Seize the Day on the Catholic Channel on SiriusXM 129. And Elizabeth Goettl, the president and CEO of the Cristo Rey Network, is with us here this morning. Okay, let's talk now about the curriculum for the Cristo Rey Network. You know, what kind of curriculum do you have? How did you come upon this? Tell us more about that.
That's an important question. The typical student begins ninth grade at a Cristo Rey school about 2 or 3 years behind academically, because often through no fault of their own, these students haven't had access to quality education. And so the question is, if a student walks in the door at 7th grade, do we provide a 7th grade curriculum, or do we provide a 9th grade college preparatory curriculum? And the answer is we do both. So we have a 4-year rigorous college preparatory curriculum, and at the same time, with some students, we're also closing gaps through differentiated instruction to close the gap of underachievement so they can perform well in the college preparatory curriculum, which includes 4 years of English, 4 years of math, 4 years of science, 4 years of religious studies, 3 years of social studies, and visual and performing arts. So it's a rich and robust 4-year curriculum. It's aligned with national standards. It's aligned with career readiness standards. We look at ACT, SAT, the Common Core, and all of those college preparatory standards. And then we have developed our own proprietary 4-year curriculum in each of those disciplines.
Now, you've talked a little bit about your rapid growth, especially over the last number of years, Elizabeth. Tell us a little bit about how, if one is interested in getting a Cristo Rey Network school started in their community, how do they go about that? What's the way? What moves do they need to make?
Well, that's a great question, because I just met with the people in Richmond who've worked tirelessly over the last 2 years to launch a school in Richmond. So it requires, first of all, a feasibility study. The question is, would a Cristo Rey school in this community work? So a group of people from the local community drive the work, and they try to answer a number of questions. Would there be jobs in this community? Is there a student need in this community? And can we support a school? So they spend about 18 to 24 months studying and trying to answer that question and gaining support throughout the community. I was just in Atlanta yesterday, where they opened a brand new gymnasium, and there were hundreds of people there, and that support was built internally through the Atlanta community over several years.
Okay, now regarding that, Elizabeth, I'm sure that throughout the country, there have been many Catholic schools that have been shuttering because of a lack of support, a lack of students, etc. And yet you continue to grow schools. To what do you attribute that?
Mm-hmm. That's right. We are the largest high school network that exclusively serves low-income families. We attribute it to the fact that our schools are accessible. So our financial model, instead of being a tuition-driven model, is a model that is driven by the corporate work study program, with 60% of the revenue actually being earned by students through their corporate work study jobs. Therefore, we don't have to rely so heavily on fundraising. Every family also contributes to the cost of education, paying what they can. So what I contribute this growth to is there is a great need for quality college preparatory education, and that every student in America ideally would have access to such an education. And so because of our unique financial model, we're able to provide it to students who otherwise just wouldn't be able to access it.
Elizabeth Goettl, the CEO and president of Cristo Rey Network, with us this morning. And I'm Gus Lloyd. Welcome to Seize the Day on the Catholic Channel on SiriusXM 129. Maybe you could give us a few anecdotes, if you would share a couple, about the effect and influence that the Cristo Rey Network has had on students and families.
Oh, there are so many stories. Most of our students and their families will tell us they never dreamed of going to a good high school. They never dreamed of going to and through college. The Cristo Rey schools provide a vision of a different future for the families we serve. One story I'm remembering, a young man we admitted to the school in Tucson where I served as president, and Henry was from Rwanda. His family were refugees, and he had had no access to education throughout his entire childhood because they were refugees. When the family arrived in America, he really couldn't read or write. Within a few years, the schools he had gone to had gotten him up to about the fourth grade level. And the question was, could we serve Henry well? Could we get him ready for college in 4 years if he's starting at fourth grade level? So Henry worked at the Catholic Hospital in Tucson, and he did supply and delivery, and he did medical transport. He developed his job skills. He developed his academic skills. He ultimately graduated from San Miguel and went to and through college. But talk about a life transformed. And almost every Cristo Rey student has a similar story.
That's beautiful. Well, is there a website that folks can go to, or what's the best way for them to get more information, Elizabeth?
Sure. Our website is CristoReyNetwork.org. It's CRISTOREY Network. That's Christ the King in Spanish. Our first school in the Pilsen neighborhood, a Latino neighborhood, was named Cristo Rey, and we continue in that tradition.
Viva Cristo Rey. CristoReyNetwork.org. Elizabeth Goettl with us this morning. Well, Elizabeth, thank you for what you do. I know you're having a profound influence on the lives of so many, so you'll be in our prayers, and may God bless you and all the folks at the Cristo Rey Network.
Thank you, Gus, and God bless you in your work. We appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. Take care.
You're very welcome. Elizabeth Goettl again with us this morning, and if you're interested in finding out more, maybe about bringing a Cristo Rey high school to your area, you can go to CristoReyNetwork.org. Spell that out for you again, CRISTOREY Network.org, the Cristo Rey Network.